What's up? What's up, beautiful people? What's up, wherever you are, wherever you're listening from? You are tuned in to the Tommy Talk Show. I am your host, TW Suggs, and I'm sending you dope vibes and mad love wherever you from, whether it's Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, California, Texas, wherever you are. You are listening to the Tommy Talk Show. We have a dope show lined up for you today. Do you feel those dope vibes? Do you feel them? I know you're smiling right now. I'm smiling right now. I know you're smiling. I know you feel it. You feel it. You feel it. I know you do. Oh, man. What's up, beautiful people? Listen, so again, you're listening to the Tommy Talk Show. I'm your host, TW Suggs, and we have a dope show in store for you today. So by popular demand and request, we are doing another episode around aliens living among us, a conversation with brilliant creatives. Aliens living among us, a conversation with brilliant creatives. And the first time we had this conversation was all the way back, I want to say in March or the beginning of April, and it featured my homies and some good friends. Don Christian Jones, what's up? Shout out to Don Christian, and also my guy Will Toms. What's up, Will? Hopefully you're doing good, man, and hopefully you're enjoying those poke bowls. So when we had those two guests on the show, we really went deep into some of the challenges that creatives face, some of the challenges that parents may face who may be raising creative children, because that can be something very difficult. I know when I was growing up, I didn't really focus well in school. I didn't have ADHD. It was just the fact that I was just super creative. And so every pencil became a rocket ship. The erasers, anybody remember those big pink erasers? Those erasers became race cars because I drew wheels on the side of them. But that is just the nature of creatives. And so anybody who may be a parent, who may be parenting a creative, it may not be that they have ADHD or there may be something wrong with them. They may be a creative, and you just have to help them balance that out, create some boundaries for that, but also dig deeper into that. So thankfully I had a mom who was amazing and who got me into art classes and all that other good stuff, who allowed me to explore my creativity and all that awesomeness. So we're doing another show, another episode around creatives living among us. And again, I feel that it's so important for us to have these conversations, because I do feel that creative people are usually easily misunderstood. And I don't feel that there are many spaces where creative people can go to just be, to express, to just be and be creative. And with that, not just be creative, but be their authentic selves, which involves transparency and the things that creative people usually go through, which involves sometimes feeling misunderstood, sometimes feeling lost in this world that doesn't seem to accommodate creative people or creativity. So we wanted to surface this conversation again, and I have some really dope guests. And right before me right now, I have one of my homies. He is a creator, an entrepreneur, a photographer, and the owner of the one and the only Ubuntu Art Gallery in Philadelphia. Stephen Taylor, what's up, bro? How you feeling, man?
TW, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on your show, and this joint is dope, man. Congratulations to what you're doing, and much success to you.
Hey, man, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means a lot. And it means a lot to have you here, especially um, for you being for you being a black man who also is a creative, and and which is also one of the reasons why I love working with my producer Keith Pelzer. He's a black man who's a creative. I'm a black man who's creative. So I think it's just something to be said about black men being in a room who are also creatives, because you see it, but you don't normally hear a lot about that. There aren't really many spaces where that type of dynamic is being discussed. Um,
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I met Steve by way of a dear friend of mine who was also a guest on this show, Lisa Little, who she is a real life cowgirl photographer. She does everything. What's up, Lisa? And Lisa connected me to
What's up,
Steve.
Lisa?
What's up, Lisa? You have to meet Lisa. You just by seeing her photography and just looking at her page, you just immediately fall in love. She's amazing. And Lisa was like, you got to connect with this guy, Steve, that I met. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went on Steve's page and I saw pictures from this art gallery. I saw Steve's heart. And then me and my god sister, Sarah Duncan, we went into the art gallery and the vibe was just amazing. It was amazing. So Steve, man, so again, welcome to the show, man. Big shout out to you. So let's hop right into this conversation, right? So you are, first of all, I don't know anybody else who is the owner of an art gallery. So what was that journey like? How did you even get to that point for that to even be something that was on your mind?
Man, how do you say I stumbled upon it?
Okay.
I was fortunate to be, to have a crazy life experience.
Yeah.
So I'm an engineer by trade, and I'm a back end
Wow.
systems engineer by trade. Not because I went to school for that. My degree is in criminal justice,
Hmm.
but through the happenstance of professional life and the interaction of meeting people and things like that, I wound up being a back end systems engineer for a
Wow.
reputable consulting firm named Booz Allen Hamilton. And in my second stint with them, because I had quit for a little while, and
Hmm.
that's actually when I picked up photography. In my second stint with them, I was at a tech conference in Vegas, and I saw another photographer by the name of Peter Lick, who
Hmm.
had a network of his own galleries.
Wow.
So, the creative and media engineer in me go in there the first time and all, but by the time I leave, I can do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's how do I do that? How am I able to do that? But do it in a way that's specific and unique to me. Um, Being kind of outside of the art world, but knowing I've been all over the world and I
Yeah.
have these images from these places that I think my I can tell a decent story within a larger entrepreneurial pursuit into a sociological impact in my community in which I can give it a luxury product or item.
Yes, sir.
You feel what I'm saying?
I feel
So,
you.
um, how do I wrap these things up? It took me a while to do it,
Yeah.
but that's kind of when it was, when I experienced something that was the catalyst for this continual, roughly 4 year idea. That was in 2017.
Yeah.
So is when I experienced the art gallery. So, I took that and just kind of ran with it and just kind of morphed in my head into different iterations of
Yeah.
how do I want to do this thing? What do I want to do within the idea of a luxury art space that I didn't know was going to put me in the art world. I built
Yeah.
it I built it as an engineer.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of how I got into it.
That's interesting because you started on one end of the spectrum and then you ended up in a completely different field, a completely different part of the spectrum, even a different part of the universe. You don't normally hear someone who starts out with, a criminal justice background, engineering background to be like, all right, I'm gonna open up an art gallery, like, or even hop into photography. So what made you, so you said that you went from doing the engineering and then you hopped into photography. Out of everything that you could have done artistically, what about photography made you want to dive deeper into that?
It wasn't anything about photography specifically.
Hmm.
Really, it was okay when I quit my corporate gig. All right, let's back up a little bit. So
Hmm.
I'm an athlete, and
Hmm.
I went to college to play ball,
Okay.
and I didn't go to college for no creative stuff. I didn't go to college for no intellectual stuff. I went to college to play football.
Yeah.
And my idea is that I was a decorated high school athlete in Philly. I went to Roman Catholic. I was nice and I was super fast.
Yeah.
So, I always thought I was going to be an athlete, and I never thought anything else outside of athletics and sports. Got hurt my senior year, and then
Hmm.
it's like, well, what do I do? And through that process, I never understood I was a creative. I never even
Wow.
attached myself to
Wow.
creativity in any way, shape, form, or fashion, even though I probably always been it. I was just so mired in sports, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get to your question, but to piggyback or touch on what you kind of open with around this idea of what creatives are and how they learn, and
Yeah.
black men that
Yeah.
oftentimes into sports and they do sports, and
Yeah.
they think that that is the way to the thing, so to
Yeah.
speak, and they never even understand that creativity is an option.
Yeah.
Something else is an option outside of, well, if I can't already draw or rap or sing or dance, or
Yeah.
I'm interested in an instrument, if I'm just like, all right, I need something to do, so I'm athletically inclined. What
Right.
if drawing or photography or something was introduced to me the
Yeah.
same way that football was?
Yeah.
I probably
Yeah.
would have gravitated towards that the same way I gravitated towards football, but I didn't know those things existed.
Wow.
So when it came to, well, how am I going to represent myself as a creative? I never thought about it like that. It was, all
Mm.
right, in 2014, my urban community don't know what a GoPro is,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
not rocking with it. And I work in projects. So I was
Yeah.
finished my renovation project in my childhood home, um, to experience an idea of generational wealth that my mom gave me, even though she don't identify it as that. I do. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
standing on. Um, and when I'm done this project, I'm tapped. I'm like, yo, I really need something to do. I was complaining to one of my friends, and he was like, yo, you talking a big game, but you're not doing nothing. The next day, I went
Mm.
and bought 3 GoPros, and I said, I'm gonna walk
Wow.
around the city and get people's food stories, because at that time on Instagram, I am food frenzy. I would go to different restaurants, take pictures of it, you know what I mean, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
this was me just expanding that brand a little bit further with this first person perspective of a GoPro from my chest, one from my
Mm.
wrist, and then another, handheld on the stick, in which I can get first person interviews around
Yeah.
food, which is what kind of how I started. Reached out to different people, tapped into my good friend Salim Weldon, owner of Whimsical Popsicle, and
Mm-hmm.
he put me on to his whole network. And through that network, all this stuff led to these things.
Wow.
They weren't like I'm in pursuit of them. They led to them, and it gave me the ability to ask more specific questions that allowed me to differentiate myself as a creative. And in 2 years as a gallery owner, I'm entrenched in the art world. You know what I'm saying? So
Wow.
now I really realize I am a creative.
Yes,
I go
sir.
through creative peaks and
Yes,
valleys.
sir.
I
Yes,
relate
sir.
well to creatives. I'm
Yeah.
able to express my views on the world and the way that I want to go about, my human impact and
Yeah.
the legacy that I leave through this idea and philosophy of Ubuntu, which expresses our shared bond and connectedness as humans,
Yeah.
simply put, and that we need to kind of give each other a little bit more space and credence and room to breathe, which is what the gallery does and what the gallery is created for. So, I know that's a long way to answer to get to how did you get into photography. That's really kind of it came.
Yeah.
I came about it, and I wasn't shy about it. And the
Yeah.
technician that I am said, "How does this machine work? I can make this machine do whatever it is that I wanted to if
Yeah.
I asked the right questions." And I was
Yeah.
asking questions that my contemporaries weren't asking.
Wow. You know, I, I so I'm going to ask, I have another question for you, that deals with the creative, peaks and valleys. But before I hop into that, I feel that the story that you just shared, and I don't know if the listeners, really grasped what you just shared, but you really just spoke about how, again, how your path started out here, and then it ended up doing something completely different. And I just want to encourage somebody who may be listening and challenge somebody who may be listening that you may have come to a fork in the road, or you may have come to this space where you may be asking those questions, what's next? and that what's next for you may be something completely different than what you actually had in mind. And for you to go down that path, it takes tremendous bravery, it takes tremendous courage, and it takes a tremendous capacity and an ability to have an open mind for whatever comes down that path. Because I'm sure that while you were walking down that path, Steve, I'm sure that there were like some barriers, some learning curves, some frustrations. But even though you experienced it down that path, you kept moving down it despite that. Now, I want to ask you a question about creative valleys. I've never heard it put that way. So talk to me about the creative valleys, or the valleys that creative people that they experience.
It's to be a creative and to work full time as a creative and to
Hmm.
make your livelihood out of being a creative. Uh, we're not business people innately,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yep.
So if you contemplating money and I got to pay my rent and I got bills, I need to eat, I got all these things. How am I going to get paid from that, from my creativity?
Yeah.
Um, Oftentimes people can't, and they wind up getting jobs and things like that, and they miserable,
Yeah.
or within a certain kind of structure. I'm not saying everybody. So the, it's almost like creatives always in valleys until
Wow.
they creating something and they finish a project or they release a new song, and then that's a peak, and they high, like,
Wow.
even if the rent not paid, even
Yeah.
even even if the stuff not
Wow.
done, you felt good because you was able to create. So being a creative, you're in a perpetual roller coaster. It's
Yeah.
very similar to being an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
so the creatives that mold those things and blend those two things well, the ability to create and wrap the ability to create and the creation up into an ability to monetize it
Yes, sir.
and make money from it and make a
Yeah.
livelihood from it, even if it's a side hustle, and that side hustle is just as prominent or as important as somebody's now
Yes,
Fortune
sir.
500 business. Like, don't diminish it based on comparative factors. When you get an LLC and you say I'm a business as a creative, then that's major.
Yeah.
That's important. And no matter what the business is, you go through peaks and valleys as an entrepreneur, and
Yeah.
the only respite for that and comfort in that is time and experience, unless you got an endowment somewhere or a trust. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, sir.
unless you have those things. But even people with the most money and you got all the resources, they as creatives, they
Hmm.
wrestle with the same things too. The peaks and
Yeah.
valleys of creativity, where you draw inspiration from at the moment, and things like that. So, when I think about myself as a creative and how I want to be remembered as a photographer who creates artifacts for future humans through my
Hmm.
prints and things like that, is, you know, over the course of a 50-year career, I'm only 9 years in as a photographer, less than 2 years in as an artist, printmaker.
Hmm.
I want to be people be like, I collected Stephen C.W. Taylor's when he was at this point in his
Yeah.
career,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't a fan of this period of his work. I like it when he was doing this thing,
Yeah.
but that's over the course of time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and I got to build that to through the freedom of the creativity that I'm expressing and putting out there. So not everybody gonna like a collection or exhibition that I do, but at the same time, it's building my body of work. So I ain't like, it's no other way but forward for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm only forward, and I'm malleable enough and even hard headed, though introspective. So I do come
Hmm.
back to certain things and points. It's a matter of stick to itiveness. You just got to keep at it and
Yes, sir.
be open to, all right, well, that didn't work, so I'm gonna try it this way, and that didn't work, so I'm gonna try it this way. So
Yeah.
it's always not reinventing the wheel, but approaching things from different angles to get your desired result.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what you said? You mentioned something now in this episode that I think surfaced in a previous episode when we're dealing with creatives, and that is many creatives. especially those who want to do it as like as a side gig or as a side hustle or as another LLC or a business or something like that. They're so entrenched with their creativity and their art that they forget the administrative part. They forget the business part. They forget that you have to you need a date book. They forget that you have to pay these bills. They forget that you have to sit back and you have to project and come up with a 1, 3, 5 year plan, to figure out where you're headed, what you're doing, and what your goals are. I don't think that many
Right.
creatives, I don't think that many of us have goals. So I think that that is something that that's critical for us to
Oh,
that
well,
you
that's because
surfaced.
because that's an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
and people can be creative entrepreneurs, but
yeah,
not every creative is an entrepreneur. So
yes, sir.
sometimes it is a struggle, right?
Yeah. And that speaks volumes about also collaboration and partnerships with people who have strengths where you may not have those as a creative.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. If you're gregarious enough as a creative to go out there and network with people
See,
and
and that's
get
another
get out
thing.
of your
Yep.
get out of your studio,
Yeah.
get out of
Yeah.
your art. Sometimes you got to go be around folks. You got to network. You got to drive the business. You
Yeah.
got to try to move it, in a certain direction so that you can actually continue to create. So sometimes artists, creatives, we so proficient. Like we so good at what we do that
Yep.
it's like I'm only going to do what I do, and the ones that we'd be like, man, he ain't even that good, or she ain't even that good. They ain't even that
Mm-hmm.
good,
Mm-hmm.
but they know how to network. They know how to run a
Come
business.
on.
You know what I'm saying? Like they put on, even though it may not be authentic all the time, like
Yeah.
100% of the time. Sometimes
Yeah.
creative artists, we get wrapped up into our authenticity and things like that. And but at the end of the day, what you want to do, and it's
Yeah.
no right or wrong answer. You can be poor. You can not, poor is the wrong terminology. That's the wrong frame, context to put it in. You can struggle within a certain kind of reason. Even
Yeah.
if you get in 10, 20, $30,000 gigs, twice a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you meandering through
Mm-hmm.
them 2 times, like, you know what I'm saying? So, and
Yeah.
a lot of creatives sometimes, they get there as well. So when in the art world, you're exposed to all of these different creatives and
Yeah.
all their different avenues and ventures, and everybody got different struggles, but somebody got to struggle too. So you might as well just do your own thing. Don't look at nobody else. Stop comparing, get your 3 to 4 to 5, 1 to 3 to 5 year plan, get that tight for yourself, and get away from an idea of you not doing as good as somebody else. You just in your process where you are, and if you keep at it, you ain't always going to be there. So
I know that's right.
and
That's
that's
the
very and
truth.
that's very business and entrepreneurial. So
Yeah.
sometimes I don't know, as a creative, I'm always talking business a lot of the times. Like,
Mm.
it's just innate within the industry that I chose to go into,
Yeah.
within opening a physical space, having it, making it unique enough that, you talk to me every single day. So, whenever I'm open, I'm meeting you, I'm greeting you, I'm running a business, I'm trying to generate revenue and establish myself as an artist as well, because
Yeah.
one goes, they go hand in hand. So it's not easy for nobody, and we gotta all kind of give ourselves a little bit of grace.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You said two things. We're getting ready to wrap up this interview. We got to get you back on, man. But you said two things in reference to not comparing yourself to other artists, other entrepreneurs. Everybody is on their own path. Everybody is on their own street. Everybody should be in their own lane. You can't compare yourself. You don't know what it costs somebody else to be where they are. And not only that, what you see may not be what you see. It may be something completely different, but be
Different.
appreciative for where you are and keep your eyes on your path. And then the other thing that you said was give yourself more grace. And I think that that especially with the impact of social media, I think it creates this false burden and this pressure for us to continue and push beyond what we need to be pushing, as opposed to, let me give myself some grace. Let me establish a rhythm. I'm going to get there at some point. So, Steve,
Right.
let me ask you a question, man. Where can people find you? Give us the information on Ubuntu Art Gallery, man. What's going on?
Absolutely. I can be found. Well, I guess we'll start with social media handles on
Hmm.
Instagram at Ubuntu Fine Art and Stephen C.W. Taylor. Facebook, the same thing. The gallery's website is ubuntufa.com. I'm currently upgrading the website so it's a little bit more user friendly. People get a little bit more detail and understanding of what we do and why we do it. And it'll be coupled with a lot of the services that we offer. So we offer gallery rentals in the gallery, so people can rent the gallery space. We offer tours and workshops. So whether it's youth groups, summer camps, and things like that, you get private tours in which we go through the body of work that's installed at the time. Professional developments for corporations and things like that as well. I also offer consultative services in which you can sit with me one on one in the areas of either photography or fine art printing or gallery design itself. And lastly, I still do offer traditional photography services. That's portraits, headshots, events, weddings, all those kind of things. And the gallery is located at 5423 Germantown Avenue, in between Uncle Bobby's Coffee Shop and Gaffney's Fabrics, located in the former Cunningham Piano Showroom. If you've been in Germantown for a good little while, and we're open Friday through Sunday, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have it. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. Steve, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We definitely have to have you back. We will be right
Absolutely.
back with the rest of the Tommy Talk Show. What's up? What's up, beautiful people? You are still listening to the Tommy Talk Show. I am your host, T.W. Suggs, and we are having a conversation around aliens living among us, a conversation with brilliant creatives, and we're creating space right now, a container, if you will, for us to talk to some amazing creatives, to see some of the challenges, some of the victories, the successes, and how they're navigating their creative journeys. And we just heard from my good buddy, Stephen Taylor from the Ubuntu Art Gallery. He's also a photographer. Go check it out if you are in Philadelphia, New Jersey, or surrounding area. Check out the Ubuntu Gallery. It is so amazing. And with me right now, I have somebody who is super, 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 super special to me. And I'm probably making her feeling very uncomfortable with this public display of affection and love. I'm sorry, Tezarah, I got to you. You know you're my boo. I have a creator, a videographer, photographer. She's a director and a producer. My good friend, Tezarah Wilkins. Welcome, Tezarah.
Hi, thank you for having me, Tommy.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be a show if I didn't have you on, boo. So listen, y'all,
Sweet.
I met Tezarah. So I lived like 2 years in New Orleans, and I had to come back up here to Philadelphia after Hurricane Katrina because I had to evacuate. And when I came back, Tezarah was one of the first people that I met. And Tezarah has been such a pillar and a cornerstone in my life. She's listened to all of my creative ideas, all of my crazy ideas. Times when she just had to tell me, Tommy, you're weird, calm down. She is my first photographer, my first videographer. She's done all of my work for my album. She did my work for my flyers in reference to the artistry, or the picture, the photography for it. She did my book launch event. She did my book cover. So Tezarah, this is where it is. Thank you. First of all, before I go any further with this interview, I just want to say thank you for just being with me through every milestone and through every other part in my life. Like, it means a lot to me, and you can't really say that about a lot of people because people come, people go, and when you go through those milestones, some milestones are very sensitive and sometimes even very fragile. So I think it speaks volumes of you to be able to, for us to be partnered together in all those spaces. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
And congratulations on the show.
Hey, woo, 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 woo. Thank you so much. Y'all, she's probably going to kill me afterwards, but it's okay. I love you. So how you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good. It's been like a busy week for me, but otherwise I'm in good spirits. I'm
Yeah,
happy to be here,
yeah.
so yeah, I'm just trying to get my rest in this weekend.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Yo, with everything that you have in front of you, with because you do a lot of work in Philadelphia and surrounding areas. You do a lot of work for a lot of programs and a lot of businesses and whatnot. So I can only imagine, how tired you are. So first of all, as a creative, how do you balance all of that? Because you're hopping from videography to photography to producing to also moving your own stuff forward as an entrepreneur. So how do you balance that? Because I think that a lot of creatives may find themselves in that same space.
I think it's just a couple of things.
Hmm.
I definitely, like you said, I do a lot of different things. So the trouble that I usually have is trying to like focus on a
Okay.
thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there are times where I have to say, like I can't do some of these things. Like even
Hmm.
though they might be like awesome and wonderful, it's
Hmm.
like I've like already committed to other things. Um, but I think like keeping at the forefront, or what I've been trying to do. So not necessarily like chasing money,
Yeah.
because people
Wow.
won't be like, oh, come get this money for this.
Yeah.
Like we got this project, and I'm like, okay, like
Yeah.
of course I want to do that. But it's like, what are the things that I'm really going to be passionate about?
Hmm.
What are the things that I'm actually going to have time for?
Wow.
Because I'm still like I'm kind of still in a in between space, so I don't like for most part it's me. I don't have a lot of other people that like either work for me or are supporting me, like, or contractors and things like that in terms of like the creation of a thing. So for me, like I have to be extremely mindful of my time, because I want to be able to give, like whatever deliverable is there, and
Yeah.
I want it to be of high quality, and I want to feel good about it as well. Like just like I want, the person who's receiving it to feel good about it. So I think in terms of that, just thinking about the things that are going to drive me to finish the project. So if it's
Wow.
something that I'm passionate and engaged in, then I'm gonna, like gravitate to those things first. Those are gonna be the things at the top of my list. And then just making sure to like I said, I'm going to be resting. I'm like, because of how hectic it can get sometimes. It's like I can just keep going. It's just like I'm a person who likes to do things as well and like to stay involved.
Hmm.
And I love being a creative. So it's like
Yeah.
sometimes any opportunity that I can have to do that, I want to do it. But it's like I also have to be mindful of like my body, my mind, what that rest looks like,
Yeah.
so that I can, you know, produce something that's going to be like something interesting or that people, want to gravitate towards. So
Yeah.
it is a difficult balance, and it's something that I am, currently still working on trying
Hmm.
to figure out like a workflow that works best for me. So
Yeah. You said so. First of all, it wasn't that I wasn't listening. I was writing. Y'all see my Apple
no,
Pencil. Those
no,
of you
no,
who
you.
were, you like just in that one question that I asked you, your one answer contains such a punch. So the first thing is that when I asked you, how do you manage all of that? You said basically like the balance between time and passion, right? Not, knowing, identifying what you're passionate about, and that it's not just something that you're just going after for $1. And I think that may be something that a lot of creatives, that they struggle with. And some creators may be in that space where they have to go after that dollar. But for those of us, or for those creatives who aren't, sometimes will sacrifice the passion for that dollar, right? And then you also said, I love, and I may be using my own words here. You're honoring your commitments. You know what to do. You know what you can say yes to, what you can't say yes to. And I think that one thing that a lot of creators may experience is like kind of like overbooking and putting too much on their plate, which can impact integrity. It can impact. It can also touch on your reputation and your name. You know, while you doing too much, and even if you have a good heart, trying to do too much, it can also, you know, um, ruin that reputation and that name. And then also rest and being aware of your body, knowing what's going on in your mind, knowing what's going on in your heart. Just in the last interview with Stephen Taylor, he said giving ourselves more grace, and I feel that that's something that's also being echoed peripherally, you know, with what you're sharing as well. Wow. So thank you for that. That's super
Yeah, no
awesome.
problem.
Yeah. What so as a creative, what keeps you inspired? What keeps you going?
Um, I think so for me, I'm like interested in a lot of different things, especially things that, concerning like advocacy. And for me, like you might not always see me out like, like I'm not out organizing or I'm not
Hmm.
like on a picket line or something, but I kind of use, my talent in like photography and audio and video and all of these
Yeah.
things to document, those
Wow.
things, the
Yeah.
things that I'm passionate about. So the organizations that I work with, so for me, I'm not like, I don't know what you would want to call it. I guess I'm kind of like a hybrid. So I do some part-time work at an organization that I've been with for, a substantial amount of time, like
Yeah.
almost 9 years or so.
Hmm.
And, me and the person who, is the head of the company, we have like a good relationship and a good partnership. And she understands that I'm also an entrepreneur, so I do a lot of work with them part time, and then I do a lot, for myself. So
Yeah.
um, it does, when I think about, like I said, taking on new projects or doing other things, in addition to whether or not, artistically, I would feel like it would be a good thing for me. It's like how can I, like how can I help,
Yeah.
either elevate their message,
Hmm.
or support them in some way through what I can do,
Yeah.
so a lot of times that motivates me. Things like color and texture motivate me,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a visual person, I'm a photographer, probably before some of the other things that you listed for me. So um, those are the types of things that inspire me, like architecture. I'm really like interested in the built environment right now, and
Yeah.
how um like things like urban planning, how that affects like you know black and brown people,
Yeah.
so when I think about art projects, or anything, it's like how can I elevate like these things
Hmm.
to help people, know about something maybe that they've never like heard about before, or
Yeah.
don't understand. How can I lend, my voice through either visuals or audio, or video projects, or even because I do a lot of consulting as well, just talking to people and thinking through what they want to do. Those
Hmm.
types of things inspire me, being in community with people and
Yeah.
thinking about creative things, like fixing problems in a creative way. You joked earlier saying like, I've heard a lot about your projects and those kinds of things, but that motivates me, like
Yeah.
talking and being in community with other artists and hearing about their work.
Yeah.
Some of the work I do, I went to my master's program was in nonprofit arts administration. So
Hmm.
not only did I want to be able to know how to like create the art, like I wanted to know how, like the behind the scenes work as well, so that I could support my artistic friends. So
Yeah.
those are things that motivate me, like the continuance of art, like because
Yeah.
it still is, as much as people love it and it's like plastered everywhere, like people still do have like some negative connotations about artists, about,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
what they should be paid,
Yeah.
how they spend their time, whatever, so um making sure that, people who do the art are still able, to continue to do those things. Like I
Yeah.
worked with lots of organizations, like philanthropic organizations, granting organizations, because it is a joy for me to sit
Yeah.
at an organization and be able to say, what, we could give $30,000 to this artist to do this
Yeah.
weird, crazy project at the Fringe. Like, go ahead, like
Yeah.
give it to them. I want to see what this is going to turn into.
Hmm.
So those are the types of things that inspire me, and they influence my art in every aspect, I would say.
Wow. You know, when you were talking about, first of all, the fact that you're this clear on what inspires you is so amazing. I don't think that a lot of people in general, not just artists or creatives, but I don't think that a lot of us in general really sit down with ourselves to identify what triggers me, what's the catalyst for me to create, what inspires me, what puts me in awe, what makes me want to write, what makes me want to draw, what makes me want to sing. I think that even as creatives, it's so easy to get in that lull where you get so used to creating, you can get so used to the photography, you can get so used to, dancing or painting or whatever your artistry is, that you become numb to it, and you can sometimes forget the impact that it has. Not only the impact that it has, but what first inspired you to even go down that path in the same, in that same space. Um, and the fact that the other thing, what I wanted to touch on was the fact that you're also using your artistry for advocacy. Um, and I don't want to, I don't want anybody to belittle that, because whenever we look in social media, when we look at some of our favorite movies, when we look at hear some of our favorite songs, etc., a lot of it is, it paints a picture through the lens of the artist. They're showing you their perspective and their world,
Hmm.
whether it's through music, through sound, whatever it may be. So I commend you for doing that as well. Let me ask you a question. So you are also a director and a producer, right? So you said that, okay, well, photography is kind of where it started for you, and this is kind of your thing. Hopping into directing and producing, even though I see the correlation between the two, in my mind's eye, I'm like, that had to be a scary jump. So what was that experience like for you to shift that path from, okay, I identify as a videographer and a photographer, to now I'm getting ready to do production and directing?
Well, I think that if you are if you're a filmmaker, like if you're a person who does videography,
Hmm.
and you don't have a team, you're a director.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're a producer.
Yeah.
So these things are things that I've always been doing in the production of my art, whatever
Yeah.
that was. So because I've been like in such a like siloed space of like working and creating in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say in terms of like doing those things and going from that to producing might not have been such a big jump, because it's
Okay.
like it's what I already do. It's like I have to
Got you.
organize things. I have to think about what the story is going to look like. I have to think about the types of people that need to be involved in it, and I have to contact them. I got
Yeah.
like I have to ask them if they would be a part of this thing. Like I have to set that up. I have to have a timeline. I have to know when like I'm going to shoot people, those
Hmm.
types of things. Directing was a little more different for me just because I was doing it not for myself this time. So in this
Hmm.
instant, like I directed, it is my directorial debut, I'm calling it. It was called Queens Rule Together, and it was a part of a seven, it was like a 7-part film series that
Hmm.
we shot during the pandemic with the organization that I work with, Love Now
Yeah.
Media. And it was to, elevate, what was going on, what people were doing during that time.
Hmm.
And it like kind of revolved around like justice, equity, and wellness.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like the tenets that we work in. And I was asked to direct one of the films. So I was producing all seven of them, because
Yeah.
that's what I do already. But now it's like I have to be, I have to do a lot more now. I'm making treatments. I'm, thinking about the story. I'm thinking about
Mm-hmm.
shot lists, which, of course I still already do. But thinking about how I will, impart this stuff to the people who will be working with me, because now I have a team. I have a DP who shot like amazing, beautiful things. I have, um, uh, you know, production assistants that are completing any of my release forms and stuff. So I don't have to worry about that. Like I could fly my drone and then direct or do whatever I need to do.
Hmm.
So that was like a different place for me. And it gave me kind of a taste of what it's like to work for a team that I'm leading, where I'm like, you're doing this for me. I need you to get that shot. Make sure you do it. Like the
Yeah.
sound people, where I need the sun to be coming up over the person's head. Like, how do I articulate these things so
Yeah.
that when I get the final project or when I go into post production to with the editor, like that, it comes out the same way that
Yeah.
I envisioned it in my head when I
Yeah.
started. So
Yeah.
that it was a beautiful experience for me,
Mm-hmm.
and the film has gone on to be in 8 different film festivals, and it also won one for Best Direction, which
Woohoo!
I was excited for, again,
Wow.
because my directorial
Congratulations.
debut. But
Hey.
thank you.
Yes.
So so it was a different experience, and it did give me like, just it was it. Like how people say sometimes you need to change your mindset. It's like I've been
Mm.
told so long, um, because when I grew up, people were not doing art as a career.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I want. I
Yep.
actually started out. I call myself a multimedia producer now, but I started out like just drawing as a kid, but I thought I was going to be an animator, so I was
Yeah.
like really good with drawing characters and doing those things. And then, I was like a shy kid, and then I like transitioned and got into theater, and I became this, spoken word artist, and I was around
Mm-hmm.
Philly, spitting and all that stuff. And then it was just
Sway.
like, it's like, so I've been able to experience a lot of different art forms,
Mm-hmm.
and be, like I've had like a pretty long life in terms of like my artistic resume.
Yeah.
Um, so and like I said, I've always, worked with myself, or I've supported other people's teams. So
Yeah.
it was like a beautiful experience to have a group of people who were dedicated to my vision, and executing it. And that, I think, really opened up my mind a little bit in terms of like possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. With everything that you just shared, and with everything that you're working on right now, what's one of the biggest challenges for you as a creative?
I think the biggest challenge for me personally is like advocating for myself, um, and valuing myself,
Okay.
and not allowing other people to devalue my work. Um,
Okay.
I think a lot of times, like I said, with art based like careers, a lot of people feel like they can do your job, so it's
Wow.
like I have a camera. Um, I have a cell phone that has like 24 megapixels. Like I could have took this myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, you probably could have, but it's not going to look the way I am going to take it,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have like the knowledge base that I
Yep.
have. And I think being able to articulate what my value is to people who might not understand,
Yeah.
because they always feel like, I just had like I did these corporate headshots, and I was talking to the company, and initially, now this wasn't like a gig that I had like found. Someone
Mm-hmm.
came to me, a fellow photographer who could not, be available for the event,
Mm-hmm.
and asked if I could do it. So they had already had like a fee or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
they had
Mm-hmm.
negotiated for stuff. And so when it came to me, it was already below what I would normally ask.
Yeah.
But because I had the time, I had to think about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is this something? And I'm like, I'll do it.
Hmm.
And then they ask for some extra stuff, and then they're like, oh well, so and so would have did it this way, and I'm like, well, I'm not so and so,
Yeah.
and our work is not the same, you
Yep.
know. So this person is a wonderful person and photographer, but we do not do the same thing. We don't have the
Mm-hmm.
same access. We don't have the same bills. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that to the client,
Right.
but you know, it's like I need to be able to articulate this
Mm-hmm.
to people
Yeah.
because it's like you're not going to just be like, oh, okay, well, this is what we do with somebody else, so that's going to
Yeah.
work for you. It don't.
Yeah.
It
You know
don't.
what's funny is that while you were talking, I'm like, why does this sound familiar? They do that at church. Tez, let me
What?
tell you. Yeah, Tez, I'm trying. You church folk that's listening, you know I'm telling the truth. Tez, they,
With the
and
working for free, you saying the volunteer services?
yeah.
Is that what you're
So,
talking about?
well, not
With the
even that.
gifts?
Right, with the gifts, right? With
With
the
the gifts?
gifts. So like as a minstrel, whether you're doing photography, whether they're singing, whether it's a choir or whatever, and I think the church has gotten better with this. But a lot of times I've gone to places where they were like, okay, well, we can't pay you, but here's a chicken dinner. And it's like, but wait a minute. I can't put thigh or biscuit in this gas tank. That's going.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, look, my my oil tank can't take grits. You know what I mean? And you do it for you do it because you do it because out of the because you love God and it's it just comes with the territory and that's fine. But I also do believe in some instances, like you were saying, that there is that space where it's like, okay, but there I am worth this over here, even if it's just like a fair honorarium. I'm providing
Fair.
this. If something fair,
Fair.
you know what I mean? I don't want to, sometimes,
Like,
thank you
thank
for
you
the
for the
platter.
food, but I
Right.
also got to pay the tolls and
However,
the gas going back.
however, because when I go to that New Jersey toll bridge, I'm going to go ahead and give them that platter. They're going to lock me up. They do not want succotash, collard greens with neck bones in it, and lima beans. That's not going to get me over the toll bridge. I appreciate it. Oh, wow. So that's
Yes.
interesting. What are you getting
But
ready to say?
you know, I think that that is kind of like a nonprofit thing though. And that's why I say that because, you know, I can go and work for like, you know, a a bit, you know, like a regular business,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they don't care. They be like, "Oh, this costs $3,000 here," you
Yep.
know. But then, like with nonprofits, like they expect you, or for you know, people working in that space. That's what I'm saying. So the things that motivate me are
Mm-hmm.
like these like issues of
Yeah.
oppression and like
Yeah.
advocacy. So then it's like my heart gets pulled towards it. It's like, of course, I want to help, and then
Yeah.
it's like they're like, yeah, you know, this you could be doing this for the greater good, you know, like so they're like feeding you this story of like why you should like be paid less because you have such a passion, you know, like and
Yeah.
that will get a lot of people, a lot of artists like put in a bad position because in
Yeah.
one you will feel bad. Like it's like I don't want to turn down like
Right.
you know this whatever it is like this
Yeah.
march or whatever. It's like this is something that is meaningful to me, but at the same time, like I said, you as an entrepreneur and like a business person, you also have to think about like the work you do. And I know you talked a little earlier about like how to process it, like or understanding like your passion is so pivotal to the process, but also knowing like what you can and cannot do, you know,
Yeah.
like and if this and if you know those things, then you can say like maybe you know so like in this year of business because I am so passionate about things, I will, you
Mm-hmm.
know, dedicate this
Yeah.
amount of time to providing like volunteer services or free services or even underpaid services,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or in kind, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
you know, to maybe one place, you know, a month, you
Yeah.
know, or something like that, and then sticking to that, like
Yeah.
so then you feel like I am doing what is passionate for me and I'm giving back in a way that is reasonable for me and also not letting people take advantage of my gift, my
Yeah.
talent, my
Yeah.
work, my
Yeah.
skill, whatever that is. It's like whether it's a gift or not. Like
Yeah.
I have been working in this space for over a decade of being a
Yeah.
creative person, you know, like I went to school for some of the things that I know, and I like have hands-on experience for some of the things I know, you
Yeah.
know, all of which you might not have,
Yeah.
you know, and you need from me, you know.
Hmm.
So as much as it took me to get there, I have lots of degrees. They cost thousands of dollars
Oh,
that I'm
yes.
still paying
Oh,
for,
yes.
tens of thousands, and we know about legislation, and they're not doing away with these student loans. So I'm gonna be paying for a little bit longer, and I'm gonna need y'all to run me my funds, you know. So that's what I
Wow.
have to say.
I appreciate
No.
that. We need to have like like a aliens platform, or like just an aliens table. I have to pull you in and a few other creatives just around the studio table for us to have this conversation in person, because I think that every interview is surfacing the interview was with you, the interview with Steve, and the interview with Will Toms and Don Christian Jones in our last in our April episode. I feel that a lot of things are being surfaced right now that creatives need to discuss and need to start thinking about, a path forward, and even share some resources, even for the purpose of accountability. So listen, we are at our time, but I don't want us to leave out without people knowing where they can contact you should they want should they want to see the movie that you did, or should they want to get some of that good photography. I'm trying to tell you, Tezarah is like super dope photography, videography. Where can people find you? How can people connect with you, Tezarah?
Well, my website is www.tezarah, Tezarah, Wilkins, Wilkins, photo.com. So you can find me there if you'd like. And you can also find me on like Instagram. It's my first name, Tezarah. Send me a DM. If you just want to chat or talk and stuff like that too. I love answering questions. And like I said, being in a community with other creatives and
Mm-hmm.
chatting. So I definitely have no problem with that. If you want to work on a project or something, hit me up.
Sweet.
I'm around.
Hey. Well, Tezarah, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Y'all, make sure you go visit Tez's Instagram, Facebook, and her website. She has some work on it that she puts up regularly. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Tommy Talk Show. Tezarah, thank you so much for swinging by.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our show. Thank you so much for hanging with us for the Tommy Talk Show. We had an amazing conversation around aliens living among us, a conversation with brilliant creatives, and we spoke with Stephen Taylor, and we also spoke with Tezarah Wilkins. Thank you both so much for being guests. As you know, we are on the P3 Christian Radio Show, and we are affiliated with the Culture Talk Show, and we are in the Combos Lounge, and our engineer and producer is Keith Pelzer. You can find me at TW Suggs on Instagram and on Facebook. I'll talk to you all later. Peace.